Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us. My name is Gene Marks, and I am happy that you're going to be spending the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours on this webinar with us while we go through. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be 3 or 4 hours. We only got about 45 minutes max is what we're going to do. And what we want is to give you some ideas, some thoughts, some things to consider for 2018, how to generate more revenues for your business. This webinar is really designed for both small, medium, and even larger sized companies. We put together a really great panel of people that we're going to have a discussion with. And by the way, if you're watching this, that's great. We will have slides that you can follow along. If you're not watching but you're just listening, that's also fine as well. You can consider this to be like sort of a podcast where we're having just an overall conversation between a few people that are very, very much involved in the world of CRM and sharing our thoughts and our advice and our recommendations to help you grow your business, how to turn your sales process into a money-making machine. So this is our panel, and the guy on the left as you're looking at, that's me. My name is Gene Marks. I run a company called the Marks Group PC. We are a CRM company. We sell CRM and implement CRM applications. We have about 600 active clients, 10 people that are in the business. We've been around since 1994. So we live our life of CRM. We're very much CRM evangelists. Besides that, I also do a lot of writing as well. I write every day for the Washington Post, and I write weekly for Forbes magazine and weekly for Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, Fox News as well, and a bunch of other places. So all on business topics, and a lot of it is on technology as well. And of course, CRM, sales, marketing, very, very much an area that I like to talk about. Next, if you look at your slide as far as our panel, we're just kind of peeking in, right, Corey? Corey is he's got this sideways look. It's Corey Babka, who is actually the VP of operations of my company, the Marks Group, and Corey has spent, Corey, you and I have been working together for 10 years. Has it been that long?
It's actually where we've just crossed over the 10-year mark, unfortunately. Yes.
Oh my goodness! obviously I have to send you something, flowers or chocolates or no, probably not. But anyway, Corey is the VP of operations of our company and has worked and been involved in hundreds of CRM implementations and helping hundreds of our clients with their sales processes. Most of them successful, some of them not great, and that's good because we can share some things that we have learned. Corey himself is very much for the past decade been eyeball deep in CRM sales process and marketing implementations for our clients. And then we have Kyle Bastian. Kyle, am I pronouncing your name right, Bastian?
Yeah, you're right there, Bastian, French Canadian.
All right, that's French Canadian. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So Kyle is with ProsperWorks. He's a senior sales trainer, which leads me to believe, Kyle, that you, like Corey, are eyeball deep in implementations of ProsperWorks CRM for your clients in North America or just in Canada?
Yeah, no, for all of our clients worldwide, we have about 45% of our business internationally even. And prior to this role, I was director of sales at a company called Humanity, and I've run sales and CS teams at Demandforce, which was an Intuit company. And through that journey, I've used several different CRMs. I've purchased and implemented CRMs, and now I've got the benefit of helping our sales reps here sell CRM. So yeah, I'm all about it. I love it.
That's great. And you're involved in the entire sales process, I guess. So I guess you're familiar with going and talking to a lot of companies, big, medium, and small, and identifying what their issues are and trying to make some recommendations how ProsperWorks can help them.
Yeah, that's exactly the case, Gene.
Good. Very quick advertisement for ProsperWorks. Kyle, in 30 seconds or less, what is ProsperWorks? What does it do?
Yeah, so ProsperWorks is the CRM that teams are actually going to love to use, and we do that by automating a lot of the manual data entry and processes that sales reps hate to participate in. The idea is our guys want to be on the phone conveying value, talking to customers, and helping them with their problems, and don't want to be manually entering data and keeping the CRM up to date. So we have a pretty unique approach to making that process easy so that the teams actually engage in the CRM, love to use it, and can sell more effectively.
All right, that sounds great. This will be an interesting conversation because I know both Corey and I are interested to hear from you, Kyle, on some of your experiences. Maybe you're going to validate some of the stuff that we've gone through over the past 10 years with clients, or maybe you'll be like, you guys are crazy. You're doing it that way. You should be doing it some other way. So it'll be interesting to hear what your thoughts are. So okay, so guys, so like some of the stuff we want to talk about during this presentation, we are going to be talking about your sales process and CRM. We're going to talk about certain key reports that are driving your sales, the importance of contact and opportunity management, and we're going to be talking about other applications and technologies that are out there that will help you enhance your sales process. This is a process and a technology-based conversation on all the latest tools and services and technologies that are out there that can help you do what you got to do. Now, let's start here. And Corey, I'm going to go to you first. And Kyle, I'm interested to hear on your thoughts on this as well. Corey, I'm going to ask you to walk us through these 3 CRM laws. And Kyle, so you know, when we talk to prospective clients looking to implement CRM and changing their sales systems, we always tell them, listen, you know, we have learned the hard way that you've got to have these 3 laws in place. And I'm curious to hear, Kyle, if you have the same experience. But Corey, you first. Walk us through what the 3 CRM laws are.
Yeah, so as Gene said, him and I have been working together for over 10 years at this point, and I know throughout those 10 years that I've been working there and my previous experience with other CRM systems, we kind of came up with these 3 laws, and it's the ones that Gene and I dictate constantly whenever we're at a project planning meeting, a scope meeting, trying to figure out if a client is ready to move to a CRM. And truthfully, if we lay these 3 out and they don't have it, we kind of, you hate to walk away from business like that, but if we know that it's not going to work well, we're going to save us both time and money on this type of thing, because no one
literally like you have to be doing all 3 of these, or else I think you're going to fail.
And we've seen it, and we've done it, and we've talked about it, and we hate to walk away from business, but the thing is I don't want to be there 6 months later when we try to implement and it's not going well. But essentially, you know, in short, the 3 rules are: always have a central administrator or champion of the system. Sometimes this is a data administrator, but it's a champion of the system, and I'll expand on it a little bit. The executive buy-in, top-down buy-in has to be there. If this is, it's great when it's driven, you know, from the user perspective and they want something, but many times it's not that way. It's middle management, VP of sales, something along those lines is trying to do something, or sales managers want something, but there has to be all the way up to the top, and not just buy-in but usage. You know, and we'll just chat on that in a second. And then always have the reports. So in short, it's the administrator or champion, the executive buy-in, and the reports. Let's just talk about the first one. So the administrator, Gene and I have talked about this before many, many times, like I said, with all of our others. And when we do seminars and webinars, we talk about this as well. Having that centralized person that is the go-to point person for the users, to have that dedicated personnel, and it's not the IT guy. That's actually the biggest misnomer. They're like, well, you know, it's an IT system, it's a new product, it's going to be on a server, let's let Roy and IT run with this. And that's not what we're saying. What we're talking about is someone that is an inside sales support, understands the existing sales process, can relate that because they have some technological experience or intelligence, and they can relate that process that they all know and do on a daily basis into the CRM.
So kind of like somebody that's a good power user, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a power user, someone that has a little bit of a retentiveness for data, you know where I'm going. You know, someone that is really like hardcore about making sure the data is straight and good. Having that person, and we're not saying you have to go hire someone. It's not that way. It's more so someone in an existing role almost has to meld a little bit into this administrator role.
And kind of like own the database, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody that's responsible for the data that's in it, and if any data is wrong or if any data is out of date or whatever, it's that person's responsibility to at least get it fixed. Not that it's their fault, but they need to.
Power user, having the power user to be able to be, like I said, the go-to person for a team of salespeople, marketers, customer service, whatever they are, to go to them and say, do you know how we do this? Or, you know, to have those little cheat sheets for that person. Just a special focal, and it could be 1 or 2 people, but it has to be
a go-to person. Fair enough. Now, how about an executive?
So the executive buy-in, I mean, this kind of came out of, it was a couple times that I remember years ago, there were a couple failures that we had for projects. And
Only
what,
a couple?
yeah, and it's down now, Gene. And so, you know, the problem we found out was that when I have sales reps saying to me, well, they don't like to use it, and Kyle was talking a little bit about this with ProsperWorks, like there's certain things that salespeople hate to do. We know this, right? It doesn't, it's to them it's data entry. They don't like it. It doesn't make them money. It's not in their foresight is the most important thing to be doing. And if the executive buy-in's not there to make them do that, and I hate to use that word, but to force the issue that it needs to be in the system, then it loses because the salesperson that's complaining a little bit that it's too much work wins, and then the project fails.
Kyle, how important is executive buy-in for you? I mean, do you agree with these laws that you're seeing here? Does this make sense to you too?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And before answering that question, I want to piggyback on something you said, Corey, about the nature of the administrator that you have in the organization. I think you hit on a very important point there, which is it's not in the IT department anymore. And I don't think that was always the case, right? I think there's some legacy CRMs that did require very technical people with very specific coding language skills and so forth in order to administer the software. But I think having that person be someone who either came up through sales or intimately understands sales, or at least a day in the life of the salesperson, and also has that eye for data or that retentiveness for data, and enough technical skill to remove barriers within the CRM. I think that's the key, right? Because, you know, CRM, to your second point, Gene, is something that the executives absolutely have to have in order to derive the insights that they're going to need to constantly refine and iterate on their sales process to, you know, drive higher productivity. So data hygiene has to be critical, but sales reps don't want to use it, right? So if you view your CRM really as a sales enablement tool, and you have somebody on staff who is a power user who the floor can go to and say, hey, it'd be great if I could get, you know, this view or this data, or look at it this way, or, you know, there's like 2 or 3 unnecessary steps in this process. Can we automate any of that? And then them to be able to quickly turn that around and put that in place. That is going to get you the buy-in from the sales floor as a whole. And I think that is like one of the most critical things to a successful CRM implementation, right?
I think that's great. Now, while we're on that topic, and you can see, Kyle, that the third law there is about having reports, because I always believe that, you know, your CRM database is, I mean, no offense on ProsperWorks, but it's just a database, right? I mean, there's, these applications have lots of features, a lot of things you can do to help your sales process, but geez, you know, in the end, it is all about the data. So Kyle, some of your thoughts on reporting out of your sales management system. So number one is, how important, you know, is it? And number two is, take a look at some of the reports that I'm mentioning here, because these are some of our most popular ones among our clients, and I'm interested in if you see the same things. Do these reports, are they popular among your clients as well?
Gosh, yeah, and you know, first of all, yeah, having reports is I think kind of the whole point here, right? Like, if you want to make smart data-driven decisions around how you're going to go to market, then you need to be able to have the ability to look into that and not respond based on, you know, gut or anecdotes, but actually on what's happening in the field. And so reports are critical to that end. And the pipeline report, I agree, is the most important one. You know, and I think I've had this experience of, like, you know, death by reports, or almost getting too cute with it and drilling in way too far, right? And a lot of reports, frankly, can be noisy to me. I think the pipeline report, though, is the one, especially when comparing rep by rep performance, that gives you the best insight into what's going on. And as a manager, I think you need to be able to do that very, very quickly, right? You can't forensically inspect everybody's pipeline, you know, because you just don't have the time, right? And even a monthly or quarterly based business. So if you can get a visual, and I think of it as like, I want to visually look at what the person's pipeline is. I'm going to look for 3 things, and that's the width across the top, like how many opportunities are they actually working on at any given moment or over time. Of course, the width at the bottom, which is how many are they closing, and then how steep are the slopes on the side that connect those points, right? Which speaks like how long the sales cycle is. So if I see, like, if I go rep by rep and I can get a report in my CRM that shows me like a nice inverted pyramid, you know, wide at the top, they're giving themselves a lot of shots on goal, They're quickly driving people to a decision, so you don't have like stagnation in the funnel. You know, you don't have things that are just like languishing with consistently pushed out close dates and things like that. So you see this like this pyramid that's like inverted, right? And the other side of that you don't want to see is more like an inverted like obelisk, right? It's really long, it's narrow, they don't have enough shots on goal at the top. Everything gets pushed and pushed and pushed. They're not driving people to a decision or creating urgency. And then it narrows dramatically right at the very end where they ultimately abandon the deal or the customer says no or so forth, right? So I found that super helpful to just like very, very quickly, if I can just look at the shape of the pipeline visually that way, I'm there.
So, Corey, do you think Kyle is going to continue to make these shots on goal and hockey references because he's Canadian? Is that like going to keep going on?
It's not his fault. You know, he comes by it honestly. The poor man.
He's used to it. I know. Hey,
I apologize. They are going to keep coming like this. So sorry.
Corey, what else do you add to a pipeline report? Like, it is by far. I mean, Kyle, your point is 100% right. It's you know, the visual look. I actually never really. We actually don't emphasize that with clients, and you know, you're changing. You're having an impact on me here because we generally like replace spreadsheets with a pipeline report. So like our clients are still getting the same sort of spreadsheet they were getting from before, but they're getting it from their CRM system, which is good because it enhances the use of the CRM system. But you're right, the visual part of it is just it just gives you instantaneous feedback. Corey, what are some of the things that you like to include on a client's pipeline report? What would you recommend?
Well, and before I go into that world of like what else do I have, kind of to jump onto what Kyle was saying, you know, it's great, like the pipeline reports that are out of the box, a lot of times they're there, that are across the organization, the different sales reps, that always helps with that executive buy-in we were talking about there. To be frank with you, it makes the executives go, they love funnels and bar graphs and that very visual graphing, you know, but at the same time, when I start to look at the users, and I'm talking about getting a rep to love and use the system and use it as a tool and not see it as a weapon against what he's doing. And I always kind of say that. You'll hear me say it every once in a while, like CRM as a tool and not a weapon, because a lot of times sales reps are cautious before they start putting all their data in. But if we create a pipeline report that is more of a what do I have as well, not just the organization where a manager or a director can see across the org. When you have a rep being able to see his own funnel and use that as a dashboard jump off point, which is where we push a lot of dashboard work in all the CRM systems we work on, to be able to have that dashboard that there's my funnel and there's my different strata of the stages that I'm in. It allows me to focus at the end of the month on the right opportunities and not the ones that are still in the earlier stages. So I do like to see the probability of close, but I like to see staging. Stages to me is the most important thing in the pipeline, and the close date. So I can actually do it based on, I can see a funnel for closing this month, maybe closing this quarter, but those stages, it allows me to go through and see, all right, I need to focus on gate 4, not gate 1 and 2, because we're near the end of the quarter, and I know that the close dates they're going to happen this month. This guy's further along. This client, this prospective customer is a little bit further down the decision-making process, and I need to be able to do that. You know, every report or every business I've been to always has a key Excel file that is, what do I have that's out there? What my open quotes, my hot opportunities, whatever it is, right? And so a lot of times what you were saying, Gene, like we don't necessarily focus as much on the graphical when we're talking about users. We talk about the list, like giving them the ability to export their Excel file at any point in time, rather than recreating it somewhere else. That's important to me because I want to save them time, and that's when it becomes a tool for them. I always, whenever we're doing an implementation or doing a training, I kind of talk to sales reps that you can see they're leery about putting all their data in, it's going to waste their time. And I always promise them that Friday morning open quote report will go away because they no longer have to build it manually every week or add to it every week. They can just, management can run it directly. So that's why I like a little bit of a graphical, but I also like to have those detail rows that we can either export to Excel, because, you know, to be honest, most executives still like to see it in Excel format, that they can slice and dice it, sort it, do this type of stuff, and total it up. So that's what I like.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, guys, before we move on, just to make a message, just to make a mention for people that are watching this. When we talk about sales activity reports, I generally mean by that just what salespeople are up to, what activities they've had. In other words, like how many appointments does the salesperson have in the upcoming weeks, or how many calls did that person make in the prior week. That's a popular report still among a lot of our clients, just to monitor them. And I believe that our best clients, they don't get too granular with it, and they focus on the people that are sort of underperforming. You know, if salespeople are meeting their quotas or they're delivering, there's less of attention given to those people and more attention given to the people that are not. And then finally, there's the third most popular report among our clients, at least, is this leads generated report. I mean, we have clients that they show us where our leads are coming from every week, and who's working on them and what the status is of those leads. So these are just some examples of key reports. The bottom line is, like I said in the last slide here, always have an administrator, always have executive buy-in, and always have reports. And these are, the key reports that you want to be working on. Okay, so Kyle. Contact management is a big deal with our clients, and Corey and I, we come across so many companies that want to improve their sales processes, but they don't even have like a really good contact management process to begin with. And I wanted to see if you have a similar experience, where people try to go from 0 to 60, in 10 seconds, as opposed to at least having a first phase of sales processes that involve just good contact management. So, Kyle, what are your thoughts on good contact management within a company, and how do you help your clients, your customers, keep their data clean and integrate their calendars and emails and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this to me is like the entire CRM success is completely hinged on this, right? Because if you don't have the data, like you're going to be ultimately integrating with maybe other softwares, which we'll talk about later, or solutions. You're going to be making decisions based off of the reports that we talked about on the previous slide. But if the data that's populating those pretty reports is flawed, inaccurate, inconsistently entered by the reps, or if people have like different definitions of what goes where, then it's garbage in, garbage out, right? And so the clean data thing, I think, is the most important part, and it's tough because this is the thing that the sales reps hate to do the most when it comes to CRM. And this is the thing that, as administrators or executives, say, I need the data clean, or even marketers, they want to track lead sources and things like that. Say, keep the data clean, keep the data clean. It can be a tug of war that can really risk the entire implementation. So the things that I think are really important around keeping the data clean and syncing with calendars and emails is automating it, right? Like, to the extent that we can not even ask the salespeople to do that at all, but get that data into the CRM, we're going to put ourselves in a position to win with the implementation and win as a sales organization. So at ProsperWorks, for example, this is, I think, the so what when it comes to how we partner with Google. But if you're a G Suite user, we're going to be able to sync directly in your calendars. You won't have to, for example, put a task in the CRM and in the calendar. What you either, don't have visibility to your managers to like what's happening next on a deal, or you forgot to put it in your calendar and you risk not showing up for the appointment. We automatically ingest all the emails of the customer. That's huge, especially as different teams within the organization service a client. You might have an SDR team, you might have a sales team. Post-sale, you have support and customer success that are all interacting. And if you force your clients to kind of restate their case or repeat their process or their problems every single time they talk to somebody in your organization, it creates a very frustrating customer support experience. So having anybody, I could hire them tomorrow and I could go into a customer's account and see the entire thread of all communications with everybody in our company and everybody in their company, that is incredibly useful when it comes to like timely, contextual and accurate customer support. no matter who at your customer's company is talking to anybody within your organization. So I think this is completely critical.
Yeah, it makes sense. And Corey, what do you find at our clients? I mean, did you find that so many people implementing their, before they get on with the sales process, they don't even have a contact management process?
Well, and I think what a lot of people want to do is when we have those implementations and those scope meetings and they start talking about, well, we need to integrate the ERP system and bring that in so all the data comes into here and we see orders in both places. And you kind of want to be like, whoa, like where do you keep your contacts right now? And they'll be like, oh, they're in like 8 different Excel spreadsheets. We got some leads over here, some trade show stuff, and then they're all in their Outlook, individual Outlook personal contact sets. That's generally where we have our nightmare scenarios where we have to migrate that data in, because when it comes down to it, I mean, basically, aren't we here just to keep everybody on the same page? I mean, if Kyle said it earlier about emails, for instance, getting that basic, what are you doing, what have you done, and what communications going back and forth, with one particular contact across their entire organization and your organization. That's the main idea, right? I kind of joke that in the old days that, what people would do is they'd yell down the hall and say, I've got a meeting with Joe Jones at ABC Company tomorrow. Can everyone just send me the last 6 months of emails that they've had?
Right.
And the thing is I think that's what used to happen, or you have it filed away and someone had to pour over this information. And that's not what we're trying to do there. So we're just trying to get everybody to log their data. And to be frank with you, when I'm doing training and I talk to people that are new to this, I say, look, if we just log what you did last week, then we're 80% of the way there.
Right.
Logging what you're going to do, well, that's just fantastic. If we can get there, that's great. But to prove the value in just what has been going on, when territories change, when customer service has a case that comes in, and the sales rep goes in to upsell somebody and they don't know. I mean, that to me is critical in what we're talking about. So before we start integrating processes and sales process and automating and doing all that, a lot of times we just want to make sure that they have a strict, what do you do with a person when they come to your company? Are they considered a lead or a prospect? What do you do from there? And how are you tracking what gets done now? And we start there. I mean, that's always phase 1 to me, is account, contact, lead, getting those things done. So
That makes sense. It's funny too. I mean, I think with so many of our clients, if they were just doing those basic, just simple contact management procedures, just logging in the call, taking the notes, even scheduling a follow-up, then that for most of our clients, it's like a million miles ahead of what they're doing right now, and they're only scratching the surface of doing a sales process based on that. But you can't implement sales processes to grow your company until you at least have a basic guideline, just a bottom line contact management process first, and then you can build off of that. Now, then we start talking about sales processes, and people talk about opportunities, and they talk about things. We talked before about the pipeline report, but Corey, how do you people throw around different words about opportunities or forecasts, or what is the difference to you between an opportunity, a quote, and a forecast? Can you just define that for everyone?
Yeah, I think it's actually it's almost in the pipeline area. I've talked to clients before where we've had to almost re-engineer their internal process because they're quoting too early.
Right.
So a lot of times for me, there's a forecast, which is more of like a budget. Like, I'm trying to figure out this guy, this lead, like, what do we think he's got some money for? What is he, when's their close date? When are they going to make up their mind? And that flows naturally into that pre-initial opportunity is what it is. I actually see the word forecasting, kind of going away from the smaller set and becoming more of these opportunities or potential deals. A forecast is a part of that. I think that's the dollar amount and when's it coming in. But the quotes in our more advanced systems are a part of that opportunity as well. So I'll see an opportunity come through where there's a placeholder for it. We know when they're going to make up their mind, and we have a ballpark figure of dollars. It's in gate 1 and it's $50,000. But eventually, we're going to start to quote that. And that's going to be a little bit more scientifically dealt with when it comes to the revenue. It's going to have product line items. we'll be able to calculate a little bit better. And it's not $50,000 anymore. It's now $42,532. Right.
Right.
You know, it's just really refined. But what I like about the quote versus opportunity, and this is a common thing that I see a lot lately, is that people will be like, well, we just re-quote them again, or we create a new opportunity for a different quote. And I don't like that. So a quote to me is more of, you have possible versions of the same quote, maybe option 1, option 2, but they're still a part of a single opportunity, so we're not over forecasting. Because if I created 2 opportunities for 2 different quotes, I'm going to end up doubling my potential revenue, and then I lose one of them, which I didn't really lose, but that's the way that it kind of works out. So
it's misrepresenting what your opportunity pipeline is. I always thought as well with quotes and opportunities as well that, you know, like we've had larger clients that we'll have an opportunity for, and in that opportunity we might be giving them 5 separate quotes for 5 different types of services or products we're going to sell to this large client opportunity. And the quote is the document, and then I forecast based on the quote. So an opportunity might have generated 5 quotes. I have a forecast for each of these 5 quotes out there when I think each of them are going to close, and then they all roll up into the overall opportunity for that client is how I kind of see that playing out. Kyle, what do you think? I mean, you know, what opportunity data do you think is important to you? And we're going to talk about automation as well, so you can, you can reserve your thinking on that. But what sort of best practices do you find with your clients that are trying to manage their opportunities the right way?
Yeah, for sure. So we think of opportunities pretty broadly. Like to us, you know, and people are going to get their leads either through inbound or outbound or channel. So you get these leads from all these different places, but we don't really consider them an opportunity until we've established 2 things, and that is, 1, they are qualified, like basically they represent the kind of profile of the people that we're best able to serve, and 2, that there is a genuine business initiative on their side to potentially do business with us, right? And so if they have those 2 things, then we'll consider them an opportunity. And then the forecasting and quoting are then stages of that opportunity pipeline. And this is actually one of the most common questions that we get, especially from people who are implementing a CRM for the first time, where they see this visual pipeline view here and say, that looks great. How do you figure out what your opportunity stages are?
Right.
And that's going to be different for every business. The recommendations that I usually give there is, well, you don't want it to be too much. Like in our business, quoting or contract sent is our final stage. You try not to do that until you've kind of checked as many boxes off as you can up to that point. Like, have we established real business need there, right? Have we established that we're a solution fit to them? Do they have a compelling reason to act on their side? What is the event or the aha moment that took place on their end where they said implementing a CRM is important now, this is a priority? And then if we have a close date on that, how did we get that date? What is going to happen there? Is there a meeting, or is that just what the salesperson is saying? No, I think they're going to close next week. And so we try to be scientific about all those things. For us, it's like we have a for every stage, you basically want to make sure that there's some definitive action that you can point to that says this is materially closer to them becoming a customer or not. And that could be an email from them confirming that this is a solution fit, we're now ready to talk about price. Or it could be something from them that says, like, you know, you have a meeting now with a decision maker, and previously you've been working with the internal champion. Okay, that moves us closer. Or they said, send me a contract. That moves us even closer. And then you assign percentages to each of those stages based on likelihood to close, which might be just your best guess when you first set this up, but which you can validate over time. And you can look back and say, you know, we think if we send somebody a contract, they're 90% going to close. But then we look back over the last quarter and realize only 75% of the contracts we sent out actually became customers. Well, then we can refine that. And then if you look at all the value of everything in your pipeline and just weight it by those expected close stages, that's how we develop a forecast. And that weighted forecast to me is more important than the total forecast value, because to my previous point, you could have people that have these kind of dead deals just languishing in their pipelines that, you know, they're not taking our calls anymore, but we're still, you know, crossing our fingers they're going to buy someday. You know, we want to get rid of that as best we can. So that's how we kind of approach it.
I think that makes sense. And by the way, thank you so much for no hockey or Canadian references. I think Corey and I and the entire audience appreciate that. So good job on that.
No, you made
Kyle,
me self-conscious. I'm trying to tone it back. Yeah.
Yeah, keep up the good work. I think that's really good. Hey, before we get off the opportunity management topic, though, Corey, just just a couple final thoughts for you. We deal with a lot of times smaller clients. I always think that like less stages is more. Like in my little company, I have 3 stages, Kyle. Like when we issue a quote, that's when it becomes an opportunity. And it's 50% because it can go either way. And then when I hear somebody say, yeah, Gene, we're going to move forward with you, I bump that up to 80% because nothing in life is 100% until I see it in my bank account.
Sure.
And then if I hear people losing interest or they're not returning my emails or whatever, I knock them down to 20%. I mean, does that make sense to you, Corey?
Well, yeah, and I think Kyle kind of touched on that as well. Like you don't want to over-engineer the stages, and there's a lot of times where I will have people they'll have 9 or 10 stages, and you're sitting there going, your sales reps are going to hate this because they're spending more time nitpicking on whether this is stage 8 or 9, and it's got to be clear cut. So I think less is more. Generally I tell people 4 or 5 stages is pretty much what you want to do, where 5 is like verbal agreement, quote coming in, 99%, we're almost there. It's right before it just gets won. It's important not to over-engineer it. Now, the other side of the coin is sometimes we'll go to clients and they don't have anything. And looking at me and I'm like, you do have this. You just haven't, really qualified it yet. Like you haven't really dissected it in your own world as to what these are. But I think that 4 or 5 is always kind of a nice start.
Yeah.
Depending on the industry, depending on your business, there's obviously, I just hate it when sales reps are forced to really choose and they're splitting hairs, and they will waste time splitting hairs between a 7 and an 8 because
I know people get all confused and it gets complicated and they get turned off of the process. So
exactly.
Kyle, okay, listen, ProsperWorks is, and by the way, this is, guys, we're going to wrap things up soon. This is really our last topic I want to talk about, which is automation, and ProsperWorks is heavy on automation. I know, Kyle, this is right up your alley. So can you share with us some workflows and alerts that you see your customers or clients using that help with their sales process? And Corey, I'm going to ask you to do the same. I'm curious to see what out of these, integration areas, workflows, alerts, integration with websites, even some good third-party products that you can recommend. But Kyle, let me start with you. Give us a story or two.
Yeah, no, I think this dovetails perfectly to the conversation we were just having. And for the record, I couldn't agree more. The fewest stages possible, the best. If I can't see it on like one screen, if I have to scroll to the right to see what the rest of the pipeline looks like, it's too long, didn't read,
Right.
So I think, so the workflows, if each of your stages is really well curated and I think, Corey, to your point, that it's definitive. Like you can either check the box, these actions have happened or haven't happened, and that's what defines what stage it's in, so there isn't any kind of guesswork as to where do they belong. Then you can automate what the next right action is. And I personally think I don't think as a CRM industry we're 100% there yet, but I think this is very much where this is going, especially as more like, machine learning tools come into place to help people automatically iterate and optimize on their sales processes. But we're going to get to a point where the most valuable thing that a salesperson can do that's never ever going to be able to be replicated by a tool is talk to you and be understanding, compelling, and trustworthy. And that's what we want our salespeople spending their time doing. We want them having as many meaningful conversations with our customers as possible. So virtually anything else that we know is going to be a best practice that we don't need to think about, we want to automate. So for examples for us, I'll give you some pretty basic ones, but we have leads that come in through our website. And we know that calling those leads as fast as absolutely possible is going to give us a better chance of converting that into a sales opportunity. We target 15 minutes, right? And so we have a lead come in. It goes through our marketing automation software, which routes it to a frontline salesperson, an SDR. They get an email notification. They get a Slack notification. and they get that email, that lead in their name. So, you know, they could be at lunch and they'll get that notification. They could call it. They could be in the bathroom for all we know. But the point is that no matter, they can't miss it. And so automating and alerting reps that they've got something that they need to do that's going to be really important that they interject at that moment. Those are the types of automations that we're really keen to implement.
Got it. That makes completely sense. What about you, Corey? What automations, integrations, add-ons do you see that have been helping our clients?
Well, for the workflow and automation, I agree with Kyle on the web to lead. That's one of the best ones that are out there, and I found that most of the systems that are out there do it pretty painlessly to create that, because it is such a big win. Email integration we talked about earlier, that's huge. Whether you're using Gmail, you're using Outlook, whatever product you're working for or working with or looking at, I always tell people to check out that email integration and how smooth is it to the user, right?
True.
Some are great at it, some are okay at it, right? But for the most part, everyone's got some level of email integration. You know, the phone integration is the funny one for me. That's the one that everyone always kind of wants in the beginning, but then we look at costs. I mean, Gene, you and I talk about this all the time. Then we look at costs, and then someone's like, really, just to kind of dial, I have to pay this? You know?
I know.
And it really falls off the radar after a while, because just phone integration, if you have phone pops and things like that when a call comes in and you're running a call center like that, great, it's a worthwhile investment. But for the standard, you know, typical run-of-the-mill user, you know, it's just not great. But some of the workflows that I look at is, like Kyle said, alerts to reps for their new leads.
Yep.
I also look at alerts for reps for you have an opportunity that's closing soon. Right? It hasn't been touched in 2 weeks, or you have a hot opportunity. It's been 14 days since someone done an email or a phone call logged into that opportunity. Those types of things, and I kind of move that into my favorite one is either emails directly to the clients or alerts to the rep to manage their clients for like when it goes beyond a certain amount of days. Like if it's been 45 or 60 days since someone's touched that client, that's a problem for me, because I think there is a constant touch that you need to do, especially if you're in an upsell type business or a renewable business. You know, it's important to keep even a view of, you know, of all my contacts that haven't been touched yet. That's a big one for me. So I do a lot of those alerts that way, give the visibility into those, because I always tell people that not only keeping everybody on the same page, but it's that nothing falls through the cracks. And so those workflows, the alerts, the views, those all kind of add to that value of nothing falling through the cracks at this point, post-sale, pre-sale, et cetera, right?
That's great. And you know, just on my end as well, I love all your comments about workflows, not letting things fall through the cracks. We have some clients that they like to automate a bunch of steps. They come back from a trade show, they've got an Excel spreadsheet, they bring it into their CRM system, and then they have a workflow which assigns it to the individual sales reps and sends out an automatic email and then checks to make sure there was a follow-up, and if not, reminds them to follow up. These are all just where you're kind of condensing steps. You don't have any human involvement, but it's following up on stuff. Website integration, every good CRM product like ProsperWorks has integration with websites. I mean, Corey, you and I remember back in the day that was like a nightmare scenario to do that, and now it's very, very commonplace. And on third-party products, right, the phone integration we get asked about, email integration, counter integration. I also like marketing automation. I think is very, very good. Companies like Marketo. Help desk integration as well is also very, very popular. These are all they're any good CRM system like like a ProsperWorks, for example, has third-party tools and third-party partners that make products that integrate with their systems, and my smartest clients make full use of them. So, guys, this has been great. Boy, this went fast. I mean, we are just about out of time here. Just as a recap, everybody, we did talk about the 3 rules for your sales process: having an administrator, getting executive buy-in, making sure you have reports. We talked about some of the key reports that you should have in your sales process as well, like your pipeline reports and some of the things you want to have on there. And as Kyle said, how important it is to make it visual. And the other reports like activity reports and lead reports, how important it is to manage your contacts first before you have a sales process, because it all starts with contact management. Just making sure people have simple follow-ups and that you're logging activities in and keeping notes, because you need that stuff to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, that everybody's on the same page. We talked about some best practices with opportunity management as well, and again, using your pipeline report, how to identify an opportunity, stages that you might want to consider to manage your opportunity through the process. And finally, just these great tools that are in place in any good sales process management system, CRM systems, for integrating your system with your website, establishing workflows and automating your process, getting alerts, using third-party products to do better email marketing or marketing campaigns, or even help desk and phone integration. All of those things enhance your sales process. So Kyle, Corey, you guys are awesome. Thank you very, very much for this great conversation. If you're listening and you have some questions, please email us here at this address, info@prosperworks.com. If you have any specific questions for any of our panelists, just say that in your email, and we'll make sure that it gets forwarded to the panelists, and we will individually and personally respond back to you. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed and got some good information out of this. And happy holidays. Take care.
Thank you, Gene.
Thanks, Gene.